Pete Hegseth, United States Secretary of War, just announced that the War Department will be using its conditional support to actively facilitate massive changes to Scouting America, formerly known as the Boy Scouts. So, what are the more dramatic reforms? We'll take a look.
Scouting America agreed to make several key reforms. And let me briefly highlight a few of them. First, Scouting America has agreed to comply immediately with the provisions of Executive Order 14173. This includes reviewing and replacing politicized, divisive, and discriminatory language throughout the organization, programs, and all publications. No more DEI, zero. Second, the, quote, Citizen in Society Merit Badge that encouraged Scouts to explore diversity, equity, inclusion, and identity. They always mask it under a name that sounds great, but it's doing something else. And then asks those Scouts to engage in activism on those topics. That badge has been discontinued. Third, Scouting America will modify its policy to make clear that membership will be based solely on biological sex at birth and not gender identity. That means that the application, any application, will have only two sex designations, male and female, and the application must match the applicant's birth certificate. Scouting will also make clear that biological boys and girls will not be allowed to occupy or share intimate spaces together. Toilets, showers, tents, anywhere like that.
All right, I'm joined by CBN's Billy Hallowell. Billy, what do you think about these reforms?
I think it's interesting that the Trump administration has really held firm on DEI, on the gender stuff. I mean, they've really said this is where we're going to put a stake in the ground on this, and we're going to demand that other people follow it. And so it is interesting to see this being lived out, right? It wasn't just sort of a campaign promise or something that happened at the beginning of the administration. We're deep into the administration now, and they're still holding strong on these rules and regulations. And so it's also noteworthy that Scouting America went along with this, right? Because that is an organization that has been critiqued in recent years for its positions on some of these things. So really, really interesting. And it makes you wonder who's next. Who are they going to go? I mean, they're not going after. What they're saying is we're not going to support or partner with you if you don't comply with the rules and regulations that we have set in place on these issues. People don't have to like those rules and regulations, but that is what this administration has chosen to go with and to do. I think the gender piece of it is particularly interesting because it involves children, right? And this is something that we've talked about a lot here at CBN. So I'm a little surprised to see that they're still on it, but I'm also thinking, interesting consistency, honestly.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the points that he made that I think is a point that needs discussed, because sometimes things can be misconstrued. It's not that this is anti-diversity, it's just pro-merit, right? We are going to be facilitating the advancement of people who deserve to be in these places, who show commitment and resilience and tenacity. But when it comes to the gender ideology stuff, I've spoken at length about this. This is one of those subjects where I don't really mince words. And biblically, I don't think there's even really a gray area. But I do think that, when it came to election promises, this is one of those things where, like, are they actually going to follow through? Are they actually going to do what they said they were going to do? And yeah, they are. So I do think this is a dramatic move. But if you really think about it, it's just kind of going back to the way things were not that long ago. But you can say what you want about this administration. You can say what you want about Pete Hegseth. Well, at least the Trump's promises. They said they would do something, and they're following through with it. So I do think this is a very noteworthy. And to your point, if they're going to keep this promise, then there's other things, obviously, that these departments are tied into. And so if people wanted a return to a meritocracy, it seems like the Trump administration, for better or for worse, is facilitating that. But Billy, I'll give you the last word, my friend.
Yeah, I think the last word on this is that, we for a long time in this country have been going down a particular path on some of these issues, particularly the gender issue. And to have this reversal in the last year has been very interesting. I don't know where this will go from here. Very easily somebody else could come into office in a few years and try to reverse a lot of this. But I think the upside of it is that the public has sort of woken up on this gender issue. And I think we're going to see more of these moves because it is really much more in step with where the public is.